Good morning, good morning. Where's my hat? Good morning, good morning. You would think going to bed as early as I did last night that I would have been so rested, but I overslept, I think. It is 11:34. And good morning, it's Friday. Good morning, good morning. I wrote that. I asked Alex the other day, I go, have you ever heard this song before? And he goes, what song is that? And I said, good morning, good morning. Is that in a commercial or something? I feel like I've heard it in a commercial though, or did I write it? Am I truthfully the best morning writer in the world? Anyway, I went to bed last night at like 10, and I woke up at 5-something in the morning. I mean, literally, I was so thirsty. Did you guys ever do this? You wake up in the middle of the night. I drank all of this, like 3/4 of it, all the way down this morning. But the weirdest thing was that, like, when I wake up in the middle of the morning, I have to, like, drink from, like, a 10 glass. I don't know where this started. So I like this 10 cup. It's actually from Old Navy, and it has this dog on it. Anyway, I love drinking out of it because it makes the water like really, really cold. So anyway, I sat down here and just in the dark, and I drank like I just kept on drinking all this water. I don't know, I must have had some weird nightmare or dream or something. And then went back to bed, and I totally fell back to sleep like right away. So yeah, so that was nice. And then I slept, and it's 11:30, and I have an appointment in half an hour. And I feel like my contact is ripped. So I have to go up and change that before I leave. Don't you hate that? This is a brand new contact too. And I just put them in. Pee-pee just went outside and he got a treat. Look, he's got chewing on a bone. How's that bone? Can I have some of that bone, Pee-pee? Is that bone so good? So anyway. Alright, well, I'm going to change my contact. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. So, I was going to make another video for my other channel. But look what I did. I'm such an idiot. I broke the light bulb on my light, and so now it's not working. So I'm real pissed. So instead, I was gonna do a mukbang with Noodles and Company, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. So I'm getting ready to eat and watch some TV and enjoy my evening. Because Alex is over at his mom's house. She is making him dinner. I was gonna go, but I was like, well, I wanna make some videos, and now I don't wanna make any videos because I don't have any lights up, and so it's really dark in here, and everybody will comment on it, and then I'm just like, ah. So I'm on you now, and you know what that means. It's time for my shout out, so everybody get ready. Here we go, okay. Carrie, Nikki, Megan, Kinsey, Fidget, Crystal, oh my God, Shauna, Leslie, Jules, Giselle, Carrie, Aaron, Angie's, oh my Lord, Kelly Kitty, Riley, oh shoot, Darlene Desiree, Zeus, Autumn, oh yeah, Autumn, 2 cupcakes and a velvet, Kristen, Detrue, Baby Cakes, oh my God, Megan, Goodbye Girl, oh shit, Britt, hey Britt, Bunny Cake, oh my God, it's going so fast, Dustin, Sherry, Duchess, Baylove, woof woof, okay, Caroline, even though I can't get her, find her in here, Miss Mouse, somebody, Sandy Sharks, and Horace. Alright, so if you want to watch that, you know, I do that every time I'm on You Now, and then you can come back and you can, why is it so red on this camera, and then you can come back and watch me. Hello, 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 hello. It's another late night vlog with Peter. I'm leaving the casino, which I hadn't planned on going to, but Alex came home from his mom's. We sat and talked for a little bit. And then he was like, I'm going to bed. And I was like, you're going to bed? It's Friday night. Just got paid. So I was like, I'm going to the casino. And I got here, and I have been here for like 4 hours, and I won $200. So that will go towards my Florida fund. But I got this postcard today from Dallas, which is very, very cool. And it's actually the, do you see? The car with Kennedy in it. Anyway, much love from Dallas, Texas. Peter, you are YouTube famous. Thank you for sharing your life with me. I absolutely love your videos and can't get enough of those puppies. And then she said what her name was on here. But anyway, I love that so much. And what's so funny is, so my mom, oh, I'm gonna leave that light on so you guys can see. Somebody said I need to get like a light for my car. I don't know what they were talking about, like a ring light. I don't know where you get a ring light for your car. I'm just not that technological, see? But anyway, my fountain pop. My mother was obsessed with John F. Kennedy. She loved John F. Kennedy. She loved everything about John F. Kennedy. She loved John Kennedy, Caroline Kennedy, Rose Kennedy. She loved everything about the Kennedys. My mother was devastated when he was assassinated. In her entire life, she was like consumed and obsessed with like who shot Kennedy, right? And the conspiracy theory about it. And my mother's dearest friend in the entire world, since high school, they were like a year apart. I think she was a year younger than her, was her best friend, Diane. And Diane, after they graduated from high school, or shortly after, my mother graduated in '61 from Broad Ripple High School in Indianapolis. And Diane moved to the Haight in San Francisco. Her brother, Jack, ended up living in a houseboat there, I think, and dying. Sometime after that, my mother always had a crush on her brother, she said. But anyway, I mean, all these people are gone. It's like, I can talk about anybody I want to talk about now because everybody in my life is gone. It's like, the only person that's still around is my dad. And my dad could give a rat's ass what I talk about. If I said to my dad, do you care if he'd be like, Peter, I don't care what you talk about. He'd be like, it's your gig. He doesn't even like understand it really. So, I mean, he does. Like, my dad knows what YouTube is and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, I think he thinks it's kind of funny, but like, he doesn't, like, he wouldn't get upset if I talked about something on camera. You know, he's just not like that. My dad is just like not fazed by a lot. So anyway, but then, okay, so Diane's had several brothers and sisters, and her parents got divorced. And Diane's parents owned, her dad, I think, was a neurosurgeon in Indianapolis, and her dad had a house in Beaver Island, Michigan. And the way that you get to Beaver Island, Michigan is that you go to Charlevoix, and then you take the ferry from Charlevoix over to Beaver Island. And then, like, in the winters, like, the ferry doesn't go over very often. It only goes over like once a month and stuff. And I remember when I was a kid, okay, so anyway, so they had this house. Well, Diane moved there with her mother and like lived there until she died on Beaver Island, Michigan. And she died 3 years before my mother did of cancer, and she had cancer that had come back, and the second time it came back, she just chose not to fight it. She just said, I want to die on the island, and I don't want to go to chemo, and I don't want to have all of that, and I want to die in my home, and that's going to be how it is. And I remember my mother was very upset about that she wouldn't fight it, which is interesting because then later when my mom got sick, we didn't know what it was. And I said to my mom, I don't understand why you're not fighting this. You fought everything your entire life. My mother was like an activist galore of everything. And she said, if I knew what it was, I could fight it, but I don't know what it is. And she was just like defeated at that point. But anyway, what, Diane, why am I telling this story? Diane, Beaver Island. I've lost my mind. Oh, the Kennedy thing. So my mother and Diane were both completely obsessed with the Kennedy assassination. And, like, Diane would come and visit us as a kid from the island. My mother would always say she came to visit us from the island. And my mom used to go there and spend summers with her. And, like, when she was in, like, college and, I don't know, whenever. So anyway, she has some funny stories. And one time, so Diane would come and visit us, and I remember this one time that Diane came to visit us, and, you know, my mother was very much a hippie, okay, and in fact, she was friends with, like, the Chicago 7 and Abby Hoffman and those people in Chicago when my dad was in medical school, and my dad was a beatnik, but a medical student, so, like, you know, and I remember she was gonna go to the Chicago riots, and my dad said, I mean, both of my parents have told me the story. My dad said, if you go, that will be the end of us. Like, this has to stop at some point. And I think my mom was resentful about that, like, her whole life. And so she didn't go. But anyway, they stayed together. And so, like, when I grew up, you know, my dad was a surgeon. My parents were divorced. They were separated when I was 6, and they were divorced when I was 8. And it was like the first divorce that I really remember. And like, I mean, people would say things to me like, "Your parents are divorced. They, you know, they don't love you, and they don't love each other." It was like mean kind of stuff like that. So anyway, but we lived in this like suburban neighborhood where my parents built their house like up against in these woods, set way back in these woods, and I remember my mom would come on the street. Like, my dad is conservative, but not about issues. And my dad is all about, and it's so funny because now he lives on a lake called Geist in Indianapolis. It's like a reservoir. And he lives on it. He blasts his music, and he doesn't give a shit about anybody. He's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. It's my life. So anyway, but he would, like, say things to my mom like, okay, we're going to live here in this area of Indianapolis called Carmel, but we're not going to, like, join the country clubs, and we're not going to play that game because that's not who we are, because he was, like, enough of a beatnik, if that makes sense. So later, my mom was always like, I was never in the junior league, I was never in the country clubs, so basically I was a Carmel housewife, but couldn't turn my music up loud when I was on the street, because God forbid somebody would think something bad about, you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash, or, you know, the Grateful Dead bumping out of my car. And she'd always, like, when we come on the street, she'd always look at me and, like, she'd roll her eyes and go, have to turn the music down for the neighbors. So anyway, when she got older, she could give a shit about that stuff. And I think that's part of, like, what comes with getting older that I love, is that you really just don't give a shit. Like, so many people ask me things, like, on my Amy Slayton video, I got a comment tonight, and somebody said, remind me, what is it you do for a living again? And I wanted to say, you know what, F you. You know, just because I am a counselor does not mean that I cannot report on and have an opinion about pop culture in the world, and YouTube is part of that. So if you go and you make a YouTube channel and you're putting your life out there, eating deep fried Twinkies, by God, I have a right to have an opinion about that. I'm sorry, okay? But in my second video I made about Amy Slayton in the same week, I did try to find her lots of help. So that's beside the point. I've never yet heard from Amy Slayton, so I might do that as a follow-up video. But, so Diane and my mom were, like, obsessed with Kennedy. And I remember then, isn't that so funny, like, the comments that bother me? Like, somebody else commented on my video, and they said, your voice is annoying as fuck. And I was like, okay, like, that doesn't bother me, because, like, I've lived with it so long, you know? Like, I have thought recently about doing a video about my voice, because I get so many comments on it, but, you know, just sit behind a video and watch somebody's video, and then, like, really go to the extent to type out a cruel statement like, your voice is annoying as fuck. Like, do you not have anything better to do with your life or more positive energy to put out? Go find a YouTuber that you really like whose voice doesn't annoy you and say, I love your voice. Like, I don't understand. Like, you're exerting the same amount of energy. It's like that whole adage that it, like, takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. It's like, you know, I don't know. I'm a believer that attitude is everything. I remember those posters back in the day that said, you know, like, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of your attitude. So anyway, and I believe it too. But my mother and Diane were obsessed. I mean, they would sit around and, like, drink martinis and smoke cigarettes and talk about, like, the Kennedy assassination. Like, when I was, like, 10, and I was born in 70, so that would have been 82. And, you know, what was he was killed in 64, I think. I should look on here and see what the date is, see if I'm right. He was like August something, 64. That'd be so funny if I was right. Girl, I need my readers. Somebody out out there is like shouting it. I cannot see. November 22nd, 1963. Well, it was close. I wasn't good at math and I wasn't good at history, so guess what? I still had a pretty successful career. But anyway, and boys and girls, if you want to be a YouTube famous star, you don't need any of those classes anyway. No, I don't agree with that. I think you should try your hardest with school, maybe. I don't know. I had a lot of fun in high school. I did have so much fun in high school. But anyway, I mean, I didn't have fun when I was at school because I was ruthlessly bullied. And so many people have asked me about high school. I did a whole video about being bullied in high school. You guys can go look at it. It's on my main channel. But my friends and I, my girlfriends and I, we had so much fun in high school. But anyway, I love how these police officers just like sit in those intersections, like just trying to like catch somebody. Like I wonder if they're told they have to sit there. I don't know. But anyway, Diane would come down to visit, and I remember she came this one time from the island. She came with this friend of hers. Her name was Mary, and they would sleep till like literally like, it's so funny because I remember saying to my mom, why does Diane sleep till like 3 or 4 in the afternoon? And my mom would go, oh sweetie, she's a free spirit. That's what she would always say. Oh honey, she's a free spirit. Don't worry about her. Now I sleep till like 12, 2, 3. I can sleep till 3 on a good day. Mom, I'm just a free spirit. Don't worry about it. You know, like, I love my life. Like, I get up when I get up. I go to bed when I want to go to bed. I don't even worry about it. So, anyway, but she came, and I remember we had, like, this was when, like, Betamaxes came out. Do you remember Betamaxes? Like, that was before the VCR, before the DVD player for all you kids out there. Before the DVR. And we had this Betamax, and that my dad had bought my mom before he left. Oh, I must not have been 10. I bet I was. Well, I mean, I could have. We still had it then, but I do remember we went and got a VCR, my mom and I, one day on my birthday, and we got all these Alfred Hitchcock movies. She's like, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I was like, I'm like all over the place in this vlog. I was like, I want to get a VCR. She was like, I got you a few things. God, how old would I have been? 11, 12 maybe? And she was like, I got you a few things, but I wanted to get you something big, but I wanted you to pick it out. What do you want? I bet I was maybe 13. And I said, I want a VCR. I want us to get a VCR because we didn't have one at that point. And she was like, okay. So we actually like went and bought this VCR, and we went and rented all these movies at the movie store. Do you remember the video store? But I'm not talking Blockbuster. I'm talking about like these small ass video stores that you would go into. And they always had that back porn room. Do you remember that, with that door you had to go in and out of? I mean, I never went into it because I was obviously a kid. But anyway, but I just remember that. And we got all of these Alfred Hitchcock and Thin Man movies, and I remember we watched them. But when Diane came to visit, we went to the video store, and no lie, she got like 10 movies. And I can remember she was like, we were standing in the video store. So if I was like 8 or 10 at the time, probably somewhere in there. I mean, that would have been 80. And she was like, I can't believe all these movies are out, and I've never seen them. And it was like Annie Hall. I was like, Diane, Sound of Music. Okay, I mean, like, seriously, she had never seen these movies because she hadn't gone to a movie theater because they didn't have a movie theater on the island. My mom would say, okay, she'd say, let me tell you about the island. She loved Beaver Island. Beaver Island had one restaurant, one bar where Diane worked. It was called Jack's. She was a bartender there. And it had a boarding house. And I think Diane also cleaned brooms at the boarding house or something. I don't know. She was totally a free spirit. She'd send my mom these drawings that she did of her. I'll have to find one. I have it in the basement. I remember my mom unrolled it after Diane died, and she said it didn't look anything like her. But they would sit around. She'd be like, I don't know if Diane drew this thinking it was me. It doesn't look anything like me. But they would sit around, and we had this porch in our house that was like glassed in. It was like really like an extension room. It wasn't like a porch at all. It was just like another room in the house, but it had green carpet and all these windows and white brick inside. My mom would crank out, open all the windows, and then they'd sit there and drink martinis and stuff, and they would just smoke one cigarette after another and talk about like the presidential this and the presidential that. And my mother, thank God my mother is not alive right now. That's all I have to say. My mother was like the biggest liberal in the entire world. I actually called my mom's friend Susie the other day, who's like, I call her my Aunt Susie. She calls me Mother. She's like, Mother Susie, I love you. And Mother Susie has... Anyway, she's just not very happy right now. So anyway, but I remember that time that Diane came, and it was like, I can remember as a kid, I was ready for Diane to go. But then we went, when I was a freshman in high school, I went with my mom's friend Vicky and her daughter, and we went to Beaver Island, and it was so funny because I can remember, I don't know why I remember this. I'm like, this is like a great memory. I'm having fun telling this tonight. I know I'm all over the place, but Kate and I sat in the back seat of Vicky's truck, and we, like, I can remember they had the windows rolled up. It was in the summer. It was right before I was going into being a freshman in high school, and I was, I would have been a sophomore in high school. I was so scared about going to the big high school. And I remember, like, they had the windows up in the car with the air conditioning on, and Vicky and my mom were just smoking constantly. I think Vicky finally quit smoking, but, like, and it was like, do you know that smell of, like, nobody smokes, like, in cars like that anymore, but do you remember that smell of, like, air conditioning and cigarette smoke and, like, the ashtray just, like, in the cigarette lighter back in the day? Do you guys remember that? But anyway... And Kate and I sat in the back, and I had gotten this book, and it came with a cassette tape on Is Elvis Alive? And we, like, had all these conspiracy theories about how Elvis was going to be alive and we were going to find him. And we rented this house, took the ferry over, and then we rented this house, and I was real obsessed with Bob Dylan that year. I can remember, like, riding the ferry, listening to Mr. Tambourine Man by, hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. It's not rainy and there ain't no place I'm going to. Anyway, I remember riding the ferry over and listening to that on my Walkman, my yellow Walkman that I had. But we got there, and then I remember we rented this house. My mom was like, this house is so cheap for an entire week. And it was like on the corner of this area, like, and it was not by any other houses, and it had a tire swing, and we were like, literally, you walked out and you were right in Lake Michigan, and it was like real shallow there. And like Lake Michigan, I used to spend my summers in Lake Michigan. My dad had a boat in Saugatuck, Michigan, so I spent every summer, the whole summer in Michigan. Let me just tell you about Lake Michigan, okay? Lake Michigan is beautiful. Parts of it are crystal clear, and it is ice cold. So even in the dead of August, 110 degrees, it's literally like, feels like it's 30 degrees in the water. But where we were was like shallow, so it was like warmer. But anyway, I remember Diane coming over, and Vicky wasn't a big drinker, and my mother and Diane getting wasted drunk at Jack's, and my mom coming home and them going skinny dipping late at night, and my mom took her contacts out and laid them on the sand so she could find them. And the next day she was like, I can't believe I laid my contacts. This is before you had disposables. She was all upset she couldn't find her contacts. That's why my mother got sober right after I did, because get drunk and take her contacts out, park her car in the front yard and things like that. She never wanted anybody to know that she was sober. She's like, it's nobody's business that I'm sober. I'm like, okay, Mom, but you used to park your car like in the front yard. Like, you think people didn't know maybe there was something going on? But I remember her and Diane talking about Kennedy. Like, we were sitting there literally, and I can remember Diane said, Bobby, I mean, like, Kennedy, and I was like, this is crazy. And in my eulogy that I gave for my mother, I gave a eulogy at my mom's funeral. I said, they finally know, you know, my mom and Diane finally know what really happened with the Kennedy assassination. And everybody laughed. Because that was like totally who my mother was. She got obsessed about things like that. And I missed her for that. It was fun, you know, to sit around and talk about those kinds of things. And like, and my mother always had a point of view that you would never expect. Like, she would say, yes, but have you thought about it, like, from this point of view? And I would, you know, like, very interesting. And, you know, a lot of things that have happened to me on YouTube since I've been on here, I really try to go and say, okay, like, what would my mother think about this? Like, what would she say? You know, and, my mother was a very wise person, but she didn't always take her own advice, if that makes sense, like, and applying it to her life. Like, she totally believed in living fearlessly, but she was one of the most fearful people I've ever met in my entire life. Like, dogs, especially. My mother was terrified of dogs. I think she was bit by a dog or something when she was a kid. Who knows? Anyway, my mom's friend Diane died 3 years before she did, and I remember I came over to my mom's house. My mom was sitting on the couch, and she just was, like, inconsolable. And I said, Mom, Mom, I was like, Mom, are you okay? And I'll never forget, she looked right up at me and she said, who will know my soul now, is what she said. And I think that's such a powerful thing, you know, it's like I could get really upset thinking about Tanya, like, I can't imagine if something happened to Tanya, like, who would know my soul, you know? Tanya's my heartstone, I love her, and it's not just because we've lived through things or we know facts about each other, it's just like, you know, she's my soul to some degree, she's like where my soul sleeps, if that makes sense. But I think that's strange, you know, as you get older, I think in your contemporaries start to die, you know, like people your own age, it's really hard. And I think like your own mortality comes into play. This has gotten really morbid really quick. But I think you do start thinking about your own mortality and what you want your life to speak of and all those kinds of things, you know, like, it's a very cool life. Life is a cool thing, you know, and I was in, you know, my office today and I was working so hard and I was so tired and I wanted to leave and I was just like, no, push through it, push through it, push through it. You know, this is important what you're doing. And that was because I was writing. And I was like, you know, this is something that you've wanted to do all your life. You've wanted to be a full-time writer, you know, and now here you're doing it. Do it, you know. It's like, sometimes when we get what we want, we take it for granted, you know. This woman was sitting by me in the casino, and she smelled so good, and something about her reminded me of my mom. Do smells do that to you? Smells do that to me. Last week, when was the last time I went to the casino? I can't remember, it was like a week ago, but anyway, there's this woman there. I even told her, I said, I make videos and I talk about y'all on YouTube. She didn't get it, but anyway. She was like, she goes, now, can I ask you some questions? And I was like, oh, Lord, here we go. I go, yeah, sure. She goes, now, I'm assuming you have a friend, because you're so handsome. A friend, 2017. Don't do that to your kids. If your kids are gay, don't call them their friends. Ask them, say, what would you like me to call John? Or what do you want me to call Susan? You know, do you want me to call them your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your partner, your lover? I hate lover personally, but whatever, ask them, you know? And so she said, now, do you have a friend? And I said, yes. I said, I have a husband, actually. She goes, oh, really? And then this woman next to me, I can't even get into that, but then she said to me later, she goes, I think they're giving Trump such a hard time. I said, you do? She goes, I mean, come on. She's like, he's our president. I said, yeah. She goes, I have faith in him because I have faith in Pence. He did great things for our state. I thought, are you crazy? I looked at her and I said, are you kidding me? And she goes, he did great things for our state. I said, I can't get behind him, I'm sorry. And she goes, I mean, this is a woman I know from gambling. She's like 75. She goes, well, how are you affected by it? I said, I'm a gay man. I said, he believes in conversion therapy. She goes, oh, psh, that's not true. Where did you hear that? I said, he said it in Indiana when he was governor of our state, and now that he's vice president, he has stood behind that belief. She goes, that's not true at all. And this is what kills me, is people voting for people, because she said first, she goes, well, I proudly voted for them. And I'm like, hey, that's great. It's a democracy. Vote for who you want to. I'm not losing sleep over it. I'm not going to lose friendships and family relationships over politics. I refuse to do it. I'm not always sometimes happy with people, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So anyway, she said that to me. But what kills me about that is people that vote and they don't really know who or what they're voting for, you know? But anyway, this woman, she asked me, that's beside the point. So this woman said to me, she goes, now which one of you is the man and which one of you is the woman? And I thought, I mean, am I back in high school again? Do people still ask this question? I go, well, I don't know. I go, we don't really play roles like that, you know. I don't wear a skirt and he gets it from behind. You know, it's, what is that question? I just think that's such an ignorant question. And so, but then she was like, oh, no, I'm just joking with you. And then she was talking about her gay friend. Everybody's got a gay friend. She's like, well, I've got this gay friend. And she's telling me all these funny stories. Actually, this woman is really cool. I really like her. But she's like, now this one time, she's like, I used to go to this bar up in Cicero. She was like, let me tell you, I could dance. She's like, I get some beers in me and I start dancing. And she was like, and this girl, she's like, she told me she was gonna have me. She goes, she wanted me to be my girlfriend. And she said, she even like, we all worked together, and she was telling all these funny stories. And I looked at her, I said, you know, I said, well, you don't have a man. Have you ever thought about maybe wanting to be a lesbian? And she goes, you know, and because this is what's funny, is like when people always say, you know, like, well, how, if you haven't been with a woman, how do you know you're gay? Well, trust me, I know, okay? I know. And all of you know too, let's just be for real. Okay, so anyway, but when I said that to her, I said, you know, have you ever been with a woman? No. And I said, well, have you ever thought about it? I thought she was going to get like real finished, because I actually have kind of thought about it. I thought it might be easier to be with a woman. She's like, I don't know. She's like, you know, she's like, I don't know that I could do all that sexual stuff. I said, so you're kind of like a lesbian until it's your turn. She started laughing. She's like, I mean, just to have a companion to travel with and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, you know, like, that's what my mom always wanted that. That's all she wanted, was a companion to travel with and go to movies and go out to eat. Hey, we get lonely. People get lonely. Why do we have to put labels on that shit and say it's gay or lesbian or straight and all that kind of stuff? Why do we have to be offended by that? Why can't, my mom used to say, I'd love to move in my friend so-and-so into my house. She'd be like, but then all the neighbors would think that I was a lesbian. I'd be like, why do you care, Mom? She'd be like, well, I mean, I guess I don't really care, but yeah, you're so liberal, but you don't want your neighbors thinking that you're a drunk lesbian. Oh, Lord, this vlog has gone in so many different directions, hasn't it? I love it, though. I love doing this. And since yesterday was short, I thought I'd make today longer. I'm at like 26 minutes of just straight talking. People are like, how do you talk just straight? I mean, listen. If PP was in this car, we'd be having a conversation, okay? If Boo Radley was in the car, well, he'd be telling me some truths of the world. Somebody asked me the other day, it's so funny because, like, well, not so much on this channel, but on my other channel, like, I don't really, you guys know, like, I do not think that I'm YouTube famous, okay? So when people ask me about, like, meetups and, like, going on tour, like, that is not a reality for me. Like, I don't think about that as being a reality, right? And so all of a sudden, I got all these, like, bombarded with all these questions. People were like, now, when you go on tour, are you going to take pee-pee? And I thought, oh, my God, like, that's so funny that people actually think I'm going to go on tour. I would love it. I would love to go on tour. Who would buy my tickets? It'd be me and, like, 5 other people. And I just stand there and tell jokes or something, stupid jokes. With Miss Pee-Pee. Miss Pee-Pee! That's his mom. He doesn't know where she is. He's forever been looking for her. I was gonna write this children's book about Pee-Pee, okay? And it was gonna be called Pee-Pee and the Flying Banana, because he used to have this banana costume. And it was gonna be him and then his idiot brothers Boo and Tucker, and they would like follow behind him, and they would have gotten lost because he was on the search for Miss Pee-Pee, his biological mother, and he just wanted to find her sometime, right? And so it would just be him and then Boo and Tucker and their voices like walking behind him, and they'd be like going to all these places. Wouldn't that be a great children's book? It'd be so funny. I never could find an illustrator though. I need an illustrator. I can write the story. But anyway. Alright, well, I think that's enough for tonight. I told everybody all my kinds of craziness. I hope you guys are having a really good weekend. I am. Yep. Life is good. Life is so good, isn't it? I love hitting my pillow at the end of the night, just closing my eyes with my dogs all around me and my husband next to me. And whenever I say that to Alex, he always is like, you're so weird. I'm like, I am weird, but I love that. I love, like, that's my safe spot, is my bed with my dogs and my husband. I think it's so nice, you know? So I can't wait to get home and lay my head in bed and, yep. Alright, you guys, I love you so much, and make the most of your life. Take a risk today. Do something that you wouldn't normally do, okay? Because life is really short, and I joke about it sometimes on here, and I always say my ending, but it is true. We're on borrowed time as it is. I love you guys. Bye.